Thank you. Happy Monday, everybody. How are you today? So I really teetered around with what I wanted to share with you this week, and I decided to kind of step away from the brain talk that we've been doing. We'll come back to that potentially next week. And I wanted to focus more on how to use this time to maybe think about how we can get something accomplished. And before I, kind of talk about that a little bit, I think that means something different to each of us that's sitting here based on the time we do have available to us and based on the circumstances that you're experiencing in your home. So can you see the resiliency tip of the week up on your screen right now? Awesome. Thank you, Philip, for the thumbs up. So I went with a theme of like a superhero power backdrop today for a reason. Thinking about right now, for some of you, it might feel like you're using some superhuman powers to get through some of the circumstances that you're facing, some of the challenges, some of the activating events that are happening. So what we are going to discuss is about accomplishing a goal. This really feels like it's in line with what we've been talking about, accomplishing goals as an organization, accomplishing goals when it comes to our wellness and how we're taking care of ourselves and possibly each other. And so one of the ideas when we think about accomplishing a goal in terms of resilience is it gives us a sense of purpose. It gives us a reason to want to work towards something. I will share with you that over this last month and some change that I have been in the stay-at-home order, it feels like I kind of buried my head in the sand a little bit, partially because it felt very overwhelming at first to be a professional who's working, to now be teaching third grade to my oldest son, and now to also have a toddler at home and trying to balance all of those things at one time. It didn't feel like there was anything else I wanted to do. And when I think of accomplishing a goal in my terms, it's like, I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to do something different. And I was like, how in the world am I going to fit any of that in? And so I had to kind of recalculate my thinking, like we talked about last week. And I had to look at, there are goals that I'm accomplishing every day. I just don't look at them in terms of goals. I look at them in terms of task. And so if we think about that, what's going to help us gain a sense of purpose? What's going to help us feel more in control? What will help us prioritize? And it offers us the chance to live our values. Values is a term you're going to hear me talk about a lot with resilience because you want to live your values. You want to live what's important to you. And I think one of the goals that has been helpful for me during this time in living my values is family is always so important. And I've spent so much more time with my family that we have been able to do many things that I was not making the time to do before. So I hope that maybe that's something that's happening for you and your family as well. So what is your guide? What helps you to set those goals? We could say it's your own internal compass. We talked about the GPS last week, how our brain helps kind of drive us where we're going. What is your internal compass? What's important to you? Remember, we talked about that as well. If we think about what's most important right now, that's going to help you to determine the goals you want to set. What motivates you? Any guiding or leading principles? Those are the things that will help you with the goal. And then you have to own it. I think this is the part that I have to think about the most, is owning my goals. Is it my goal, or is it an expectation that somebody else has placed on me, or an expectation that I believe others have placed on me? Does it give me a greater sense of purpose? Does it align with my values? And can I determine what's important and what's unimportant? When you have all of these things flying at you at one time and you're trying to go, is this important or is this not important? I'm not really sure. I'll use this as an example, and that is thinking about teaching my oldest son right now. A lesson plan comes in every week for the things that need to be accomplished. And I sit down and I go through it and I say, okay, where do we start? What does he thrive on, and what's the most important thing to look at right now? And then we prioritize that. And when he gets tired, then we move on, because I read something the other day that I thought was so powerful. It's the teachers say, I can catch your children back up next year, but I can't fix social trauma that they've experienced through this pandemic and this stay at home. So love your children, be with your children, and know when they need those breaks. And I think that has been one of the most valuable pieces that I have learned over the last couple of weeks in knowing my son as a student. And so think about that when you're looking at your goals, whether it's for the day, for the week, for the month, what's important and what's not important. So then set your path, create it, create a plan, find ways to keep your goals in front of you. Basically, how do you trip over your goals? Make it something that's in the forefront of your mind so that it's not an afterthought. Commit to your goals. Tell others your goals, have that accountability buddy, so if you have a wellness goal for yourself, then tell somebody about it so they can check in with you to see how you're going. It's not to make you feel guilty if you haven't accomplished it, but it's more to just help remind you that this was something that you decided was important, and make it realistic. I think that is so important. Don't bite off more than you can chew, is a way to say that. Many of you know I have a move coming up, and I could be using some of this extra time I have at home to start organizing my belongings in my household so that when that move does come up eventually later this summer, I'll be more prepared for that. But instead, this goes back to the sticking my head in the sand moment where I'm going, oh, I'll get to that whenever we know what's really happening. And I'm afraid that time might get away from me. So perhaps one of my long-term goals is to take it a step at a time, one room at a time, work my way through it gradually. When you're setting your path, look at your immediate, your short-term, and your long-term goals. Immediate means, what can I do in the next 24 hours that will help me make progress towards the goal? Short-term means, what can I do in the upcoming days and weeks to make progress towards that goal? And then, of course, the long-term is, what can I do in the next few months to make progress? There could be roadblocks. You could experience some things like lack of motivation or perhaps boredom. I think boredom can happen with goals when you don't see the progress you're anticipating. And we're going to talk about what to do with that. There could be mismatches between what's important or your values. You've set this goal, or if you've set the goal, is it again your goal or is it somebody else's expectations? And so that's where those mismatches can come into place. So go back and reevaluate that piece. Then there's unproductive thinking. I think the easiest example I can share with this is it goes to the idea of dieting or eating healthier. So you messed up and you had a piece of cake one day. So you say, okay, I'm done. I'm just going to throw the diet out the window, instead of just going, okay, I made a small hiccup and now I'm going to try again after, in my next meal. So those are ways of having that unproductive thinking, and it can be a roadblock. So don't give up just because you had one little hiccup or roadblock. So what are your next steps? You're going to set a goal. Set goals when you need a sense of direction. Give yourself more of a sense of purpose. And I'm going to speak at this from a mom. It has to be about your purpose and your direction. A lot of times the goals we're setting, especially for me right now, it's for my kids, and I'm not doing a lot of my own goal setting. So thinking about what's important to you, it goes to that self-care piece. Your children obviously are important to you. Not saying that, but there needs to be some individual support here. If you hit a roadblock, don't stop. Recalculate. Again, it goes back to the brain. Go into your brain, recalculate. What is it that got you off track? How do you get back on track? Review your progress regularly. Check in with yourself. How am I doing with this? Check in with your accountability buddy. And then, of course, like I said, share your goals with somebody and your action plan. So that way you have that person who's helping to check in with you. I'm sure there's some people here on our team that would be happy to be an accountability buddy for you if you need that support. And so that is one of our resiliency skills that I wanted to share with you so that we could talk about how to use this time to accomplish a goal and something that helps you feel that sense of purpose and a sense of accomplishment.